Okay, let's take a look at this problem. We've got 15x to the fourth minus 28x squared plus 5 equals 0. Now this is going to be a U-substitution. What tells me that is if you can take the middle part here, excluding the number in front, so take the x squared, take it to the second power. And if it gives you this first part, that's when you can do the U-substitution. Now step 1. Let the middle part be equal to u, and the first part be equal to u squared. So I can rewrite this as 15u squared minus 28u plus 5 equals 0. The idea behind the U-substitution is that you rewrite it as a quadratic form. Well, this factors with the key number because we've got u squared, u, no u, and there's a number in front of our u squared. So we're going to take our number at the beginning times the number at the end, ignoring signs. So I got 15 times 5, which gives us 75. We're going to write down all products that give us 75. That's a P column. So we've got 1 times 75, 3 times 25, 4, no, 5 times 15, 6, no, 7, no, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think that's everything. Now the S column, S for sum. 1 plus 75 is 76, 3 plus 25 is 28, 5 plus 15 is 20. D for difference. Subtract smaller from larger. 75 minus 1 is 74. 25 minus 3 is 22. 15 minus 5 is 10. Always the number we're looking for is a number in our middle term, which is 28. So we're going to use 3 and 25. Now we're going to rewrite our middle term using those two numbers. Now the larger number that we're using 3 and 25, so larger of those is 25. Will always be the same sign as the middle term. Middle term's negative, so this will be negative. The number I circled is in the S column. S for same signs, both positive, both negative. Since the 25 was negative, then the 3 has to be negative. And now we want to factor by grouping. The first group has a 5 and a u in common, and that gives us 3u minus 5. The second group has nothing in common, but my first term's negative. And anytime for GCF, if your first term is negative, you always bring out a negative. And that gives us 3u minus 5. Now our goal was to get these parentheses the same, which they are. So I'll factor out a 3u minus 5. And that gives us 5u minus 1 equals 0. Now zero factor property. You get 0 on one side, you factor the other side, you set each factor equal to 0. So I'll set 3u minus 5 equal to 0 and 5u minus 1 equal to 0. And solve them. Here I take negative 5 over, becomes a positive 5, divide both sides by 3, and you get u is equal to 5/3. Here I'll take negative 1 over, becomes a positive 1, divide both sides by 5, and we get u is equal to 1/5. Step 3. Plug u equals blank back in and solve for x. In this case, u is equal to x squared. It's whatever you specify u is right here. So we're going to plug x squared in for the u. So I got x squared is equal to 5/3, and x squared is equal to 1/5. Now square root property. Square root property says if you got something squared equal to something else, you drop your squared and you put a plus or minus square root around the other side. Drop your squared, put a plus or minus square root around the other side. Now we can't have a fraction inside of a radical, so we'll split the square root up. We'll put a square root around top and square root around the bottom. Well, in addition, we can't have a square root in the denominator, so we'll multiply top and bottom by that square root. And we get x is equal to plus or minus square root of 15 over square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. Do the same thing in this one. Split this up, put a square root around top, square root around the bottom. Now square root of 1 is 1, so that drops away. The square root, that is. And we can't have the square root in the denominator, so we multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 5 again. And that gives us plus or minus square root of 5 over 5. This would be challenging. Comma to separate answers. Okay, so we got a negative square root, no. Fraction, square root, 15 over 3, comma, and then a fraction, and then square root, 15 over 3, comma, negative, fraction, square root of 5 over 5, comma, fraction, square root, 5 over 5, and check answer. And that's how you'd work that problem.